Let's start with the tent. So I use a single wall floorless tent for my winter shelter. This is the Durston X-Mid 2-person, just the fly, no inner. I often get the question, isn't it colder to sleep with a tent like this versus a fully enclosed double wall tent? And that's just not my experience. I use a tent to protect me from wind and to protect me from snow, precipitation, or if it happens to rain, which I really hope it doesn't. It weighs under 1.5 pounds, packs down to the size of, a small loaf of bread, if that, maybe a Nalgene bottle, and I get everything I need. So if you go for any kind of double wall winter style tent, they're gonna weigh above 5 pounds, they're gonna take up a massive amount of space in your pack, and I just don't find the pros overweigh the cons. The next part of my sleeping system is a good winter rated ground pad. This is the Thermarest Neo Air X-Therm NXT in the shaped mummy size. It's a size long. I've been using the X-Therms for a few years now. They are just a fantastic winter pad. I can't sort of overstate how much confidence I have in these. I have a Max, the older version, the Max, which is really quite wide and long, rectangular shape. When I first started using that in the winter, I would put a foam pad underneath it. But then I quickly learned that that foam pad just isn't necessary. On the coldest trip that I've done with an X-Therm, which was right around -30, a very, very, very cold trip, you literally feel warmth coming from it. I think this is the reference that every other company is trying to catch up to in terms of just how much warmth to weight you get for a sleeping pad. And in my mind, if I'm gonna just go with something, I'm gonna go with what is kind of tried and true. Should you pack a foam pad when you're coming out in the winter? That's a really good question. In terms of the temperatures that I'm encountering, I don't need one. Now, is it a good safety backup? If you pop this, you're in trouble. So I make sure I always have some foam with me and some foam in my backpack, so I could have a makeshift ground pad to keep me kind of as warm as possible. But realistically, I'm relying on this 100%. This is the Thermarest Polar Ranger. It is a beast. I've taken it out on 2 or 3 trips now, and just honestly, it's the warmest piece of gear I've ever used in my life. The amount of down that's in here is just unbelievable. For most of my winter trips over the years, I've used typically -20 rated sleeping bags, which means they have a comfort rating of around -10. This is a -30 rated sleeping bag, and it has a comfort rating of -20. And I took this down to -20 a couple weeks ago, and I had just slept in my sort of base clothes, nothing special, no tricks, and I was comfortable. Do you need this level of winter sleeping bag? I do quite a bit of winter camping, and I was kind of getting sick of being out and it's -20 and you're kind of nervous about pushing your -20 sleeping bag that far. I have pushed -20 sleeping bags that far. I've pushed them to -30, and you have to do every trick in the book to stay warm. This sleeping bag just gives me that extra range, and I don't have to think so much about, do I have to cancel a trip or something like that. All kinds of features that make it a real specialist for cold weather. It's 800 fill down. There is just so much down. It's hard to explain the thickness of down that this bag has. It's all built so that the baffles line up, whether it's here along the top zipper, which is a really nice feature. So the two sort of panels line up and make this big thick seal. There's 2 side arm pockets, sort of armholes, that also the baffles just line up one next to the other and create a seal. These are really specialist sort of tools, meaning that you can stay in the bag, get your arms out, do things or vent, and stay really warm. The hood is really fitted to your head. It has this feature they call the snorkel, synthetic insulated material around this little tube that goes around your face that has magnets that clip shut. Another thing that it has that I really like on the Thermarest bag, so I have the Parsec -6 Celsius and also the Parsec -18. They have an extra sort of pocket on the inside of the toe that is a doubled up little compartment for your foot. It's this little foot garage. It's pretty nice to have that extra insulation all around your feet. If you're going down in cold weather, my preference is to have a sleeping bag that can handle those temperatures versus layering multiple sleeping bags. That's just my philosophy. So that's my core sleep system: tent, sleeping bag, ground pad. What else do I have with me? Well, first of all, I have all of my active clothes that I'm always wearing. And those are an important part of my sleep system because I wear them to bed. I do get questions about, you know, what do you wear to bed to maximize your warmth? Well, I only have one set of clothing with me. Grid fleece on the inside, soft shell pants, grid fleece underneath. Then I have my down jacket, pair of Apex, I think it's 3.6 ounce per yard Apex. So these are puffy pants with a zip down the side. All of these things together, the pants, the jacket, all of my clothes are part of my sleep system. I'll typically go down to my soft shell pants, grid fleece top, obviously a warm hat also to sleep in. And that's my baseline sleeping. The comfort range of your sleeping bag is with it all closed and sort of minimal clothing on. So my baseline clothing. Then once you get colder and colder and colder, well, that's when you start putting layers on. And I have a video about that, about whether or not, you know, putting clothes keeps you warmer in a sleeping bag. And it 100% does. There is absolutely no question that it does. The problem is that if you're missing part of your system, that part will be cold. So if I put on insulating pants, big down jacket, and go into my sleeping bag with no gloves on and nothing on my feet, just socks, my hands and feet are gonna be cold and it's gonna keep me awake at night. Down hut boots that I'm wearing right now that are a really nice thing to have when you're in camp. You know, in the morning, like right now, I get up, I don't wanna put my ski boots on right away. So I put my hut boots on. I also have these massive Primaloft, I think they are, mittens. So these are Expedition. They're very lightweight, so they're not super tough mittens. They're very lightweight. I've had these for several years, and I break them out every now and then when it's just absolutely frigid. But I always have them with me, and I've slept with these. My top level warmth sleep system is all of the clothes I'm wearing now, my hut boots, the thick mittens, insulated pants, all in my sleeping bag. That's the maximum level. The last part are lots of different little tricks. And those tricks are pretty basic. A lot of people talk about them, but they really do work. The main one for me is using an Nalgene water bottle in a big cozy, so an old outdoor research cozy. That adds a ton of warmth to your sleeping bag. And having it in the cozy kind of extends how long it lasts. It'll last all night and it'll still have warm water in it in the morning, and it's still generating warmth in my sleeping bag. Last night, I just do it by default. Last night I went to bed, I did that. It was too hot, I had to take it out. It was just too warm last night. Then the other part are obviously things like chemical hand warmers, which I've also used in my hut boots because it was so cold out. But those kind of things can be your kind of last resort. You know, you need that warmth. There's nothing that warms you up faster than adding external warmth. So I make sure that I have that another warm drink with me. So half-liter bottle that I bring into my sleeping bag. It's insulated with a beer can cozy. And then I can sip at that, and it just, that warmth directly into your body makes you feel really good. That being said, you know, I've had nights where it's absolutely frigid. You stop in the evening, your body starts to cool off, you get into bed, and your body has to warm up all that loft, all that down. So you're losing heat throughout that whole process. Now, if you've got the right gear, eventually it's gonna all warm up and you should be good. So that's the whole system: tent, ground pad, sleeping bag. Those all together combined come out at less than 6.5 pounds, which is pretty minimal. My whole kit that I'm using this weekend is below 20 pounds. It's right around 19 pounds if I exclude my camera and tripod. A lot of people are going out with more than 20 pounds of gear just for 3-season backpacking. So I've sort of pared it down to what works well for me. This might not work for everyone, but I hope it provided some information and a bit of insight into how you can handle these kind of conditions in the winter.